All right, it is 6 o'clock on May 24th, 2021. We're going to begin our curriculum meeting for the month of May. We want to start off by talking about what summer programs we have happening this summer. There are several under different categories. Preston, do you want to talk about connections first?
Sure. So let me jump in with the agenda. We'll come to summer programs if it's okay. I have that on for, I think, the fourth bullet
Okay.
Today. First, I want to congratulate Scott and the technology team. I think just looking at that presentation from the last meeting was phenomenal how much has happened and how much integrations occurred. Certainly in the curriculum world and the curriculum instruction side, it's been very much appreciated. Today in the CNI, the new items, we have instructional coaching model update, middle school math progression pilot, keys up in the course, and then I have a handful of updates I'd like to share with you. But I'd like to bring out, we have a lot of talented people on our team, and I've had some other folks present earlier in previous meetings, and today I'd like to have Ms. Owens present on the instructional coaching model, and kind of where we stand. And as you guys have fully supported that effort, I want you to understand what's happened and what your support has led to. So, Ms. Owens.
All right, thank you. So I'm here to give you an update on the instructional coaching team here at Daniel Boone. And instructional coaching, it's a recognized and proven professional development strategy where a highly skilled educator works with other educators they collaborate so that they raise their instructional practice. And this personalized approach fosters teacher growth, and it provides consistent support as teachers work to improve their knowledge and their skills and their techniques to cultivate a culture of collective responsibility for student achievement so that we all take part in the education of our students. The coach here at Daniel Boone, they serve as part of our school's instructional leadership team, and they provide job-embedded and ongoing professional development for our teachers and staff. They also provide support to the principals in data analysis and professional development decision-making. They provide professional development and guidance for teachers to improve their content knowledge and instructional strategies. And overall, the job of the coach is to build the capacity of the school and its teachers to meet the learning needs of all of our students. The coach's goals are to ensure that school staff acquires the understanding and skills to enhance instructional practices at the classroom level and ultimately raise the level of student achievement. School districts vary in their orientation of instructional coaches. Some have none. And here at Daniel Boone, we're fortunate to have 6. We have one in each building. We have a district-wide instructional technology coach and a district-wide special education coach. So before I move on, I just want to thank you all very much for your investment and support of this model. Instructional coaching provides and encourages a culture of learning that's really bigger than any one teacher or any one classroom. It really creates an environment where everyone is working toward the success of our students. So thank you again. Our instructional coaches have logged over 2,300 engagements with teachers, and that number is actually low. We started collecting that in end of September, and I took that number around the end of April. And so this year, while our coaches spent a lot of time with the virtual learning piece, our coaches did a wonderful job really supporting our teachers right alongside of them. They were able to co-plan, co-teach, model strategies. They were able to arrange time for teachers to visit colleagues to watch a lesson being taught or a strategy being implemented. They looked at data, they planned professional development for faculty meetings and for in-service days. They researched and gathered resources where teachers expressed a need or an interest in. And I can go on and on. They were really invaluable this year. I also want to show you some of the websites that our coach team has developed for teacher access, and this is just a couple of things. This is on our Blazer net, so the teachers are able to access this whenever they have a need. This has been around since right around the pandemic, I guess when the pandemic hit is when they started this. but really it has a lot of, has best practices for online learning. It has tutorials on how to use a lot of our platforms. It even has information for parents on there so that teachers can go on here and be able to forward information to parents if they're having a problem with one of our, logging in or using a piece of technology. So this has been excellent. There's also a lot of tools in here for some of our programs. So there's some math on here with Think Central, that's our Go Math program, and a lot of tips on teaching remotely. It's very, I think, comprehensive. And then here's a teacher toolbox. This particular one is from the high school. And again, it has a ton of information and help for our teachers that they can really access asynchronously and watch videos, read articles, and take control of their own learning where they feel that they need it. There's strategies on here and help with doing their lesson plans, ideas. Another tab I like on this particular toolbox is a lot of the teachers share their best practices in the classroom. So they share with one another, which is huge. Other teachers really appreciate that their colleagues and peers share really great practices. There's tons on here, so I won't go through it all, but then there was also a coaching tab where teachers can go and understand what they can do with their coach and how their coach can best support them. There's a lot of time spent on our teacher toolbox. And finally, the coaching team created a Padlet, and in here, this is something that is helpful to the coaches for their own professional learning and growth. So there's lots of articles and videos and for the coaches on how they can better develop themselves in their role. So they can go on here and read articles or get information on all of these things at the top: technology and leadership and classroom culture. So what are our teachers saying about our instructional coaches? Well, we wanted to make sure that we had data and evidence to show that our coaches are making a difference in the classroom, and so ultimately improve student success. And some of that data is in student testing, so it's quantitative, which this year was tough due to the pandemic. But we were able to get qualitative data by asking teachers to share ways that they have grown by engaging our instructional coaches. And it's kind of amazing because knowing how difficult it is to get people to respond to surveys, I truly never thought we would have such an overwhelming response. We had over 70 teachers respond to our request for comments, and they didn't respond with just one-liners. They really replied thoughtfully, and they spelled out ways that the coaches supported them in their classrooms. So not that I'm going to read all these or that you're going to read all these, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like. These are all testimonials from teachers on how the coach supported them this year. I will call out a few. One teacher said, "I appreciate all the time you've placed into making sure teachers have the ability to learn new things or change instruction to what they would like. Thank you for the time and effort." Another one said, "Throughout this year, the coaches have been a lifeline in a tumultuous sea of uncertainty. I'm not sure how I would have made it through without the help. I could give ideas and get help. They're definitely a support that is necessary, and I've learned many new things." And then the final one I just wanted to share is, "This year could have been my worst teaching year, but it was one of the best. Thanks to your patience and support, I was able to view technology as an opportunity instead of a barrier this year. So much added to my repertoire." So I thought those were a few, and there's 75 of them that are really fun to read. And I think the coaches really appreciated that feedback and made them understand how valuable they really are. So the coaching team is really encouraged by all of the growth growth that they've seen this year, and they're very excited to take our coaching here at Daniel Boone to the next level. And without going into the weeds with coaching, there are 3 levels of coaching. There are levels of intensity, really. So level 1 is, more of relationships are being built and trust is being gained, and we're gathering resources and we're supporting teachers. All of that level 1 coaching is extremely important when developing a coaching model, and it's something that really needs to be developed for a long time. But we have grown as a coaching team, and we've had many opportunities this past year to provide that level 2 and level 3 support, which is more intense, more analyzing instruction. And if you look at that pie chart there, it does say the blue is level 1. So we are doing more level 1 coaching, but that's very indicative of where we should be in regards to coaching readiness and the time it takes to develop a more seasoned team of coaches. And also, research does show that it requires a multi-year investment to develop a culture that's conducive to coaching. So I just want to end by saying I'm very proud of and humbled by the Daniel Boone School District coaches. And I'm thrilled that our school district has placed such value on education of our staff to ultimately increase student learning. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Questions for Mrs. Owens and regarding the coaching program?
I have one. You said that there were 6 for the district, 1 for each building, 1 special ed, and what was the other one?
Instructional technology.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Tracy can raise her hand right over there. She's our...
Hey, Tracy.
Hi, that's one of our fabulous coaches.
Other questions? Okay. The program, I've seen coaching programs in different districts, depending on how you implement them, it really has to do with how successful it is. And I think the way we've done it here collectively as a team, from the board down through the administration, down to the principals and the coaches and the teachers, I think is the right way. It is in alignment with best practice, and we're starting to see the benefits of it. So nice work by that team. Thank you. Next issue, just a couple pieces here, and Jenny can comment on it a little more specifically as she probably gets her next presentation ready, but we are beginning to look at a pilot next year for middle school math with the intention that we grow the potential of having Algebra 2 in 8th grade. Right now we have just a couple students in that space. Our model currently is, and really with Algebra, our highest learners doing Algebra 1 in 8th grade. That is out of alignment with other school districts, quite honestly, and so we want to bring ourselves there. And that's a tricky model because unlike other programs, you still need that foundational year. So we're building that pilot out, and we have some assessment tools to see if students are ready to engage. And if they are, we're going to present a section of students to begin that process moving forward. So more to come. Just sharing that as an informational piece. The other informational piece, Keystone end of course assessment pilot. So one of the tools that we're looking at doing is bringing on the algebra and lit as well as biology, and embedding that as an end of the course, true end of the course assessment to see where students stand, and we'll pilot that next year, bring that back to the committee for final decision next spring in that direction. But those are the ideas that we're looking, because those courses are necessary for Act 182 for students to graduate. There are alternative pathways, but one of those pieces connecting it more directly to the courses is a direction that we are recommending, but we want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction by looking at a pilot piece. There'll be no penalty for students in that pilot. We just want to see, after they take the assessment, how that measures out. And we'll present all that data to you guys next year. But just letting those come on. Questions around that? Okay. Update piece here. I can send this to you. The state is moving forward on the next gen science standards. It's going to the final vote in the House, so it's happening. It's moving forward. I can share that with anybody. I can send it to Ms. Albright. She can send it out to the team if you'd like to see it. You can dive into all those standards, but the state is moving that way, and we've already aligned our curriculum to that piece, so it's not a big deal. It's more information that you understand. That's where we're headed off the 2002 science standards, moving to the next gen science standards for 21-2, it looks like. Summer programming. This is what Mrs. Ulrich touched on earlier today. Ballpark numbers for you guys, but very firm numbers. We're looking at, I believe, 162 elementary students. We're looking at another 65 or so secondary students in the Summer Academic Connections program. We're at 23 ESY students. Summer school, still waiting at the high school in terms of true credit recovery. You won't know until the students actually are eliminated from passing a class. But that program is, Summer Academic Connections is staff. You're going to vote later tonight on the folks who we have in position now. Also, the one school, one book, one school, one book, will serve about 1,300 students this summer in that model, where students are, they receive their books, and they will begin to read, and then there's a teacher at the primary center, a teacher at the secondary center, who will be doing comprehension work with students once a week in a virtual format for those students over the summer. So, real tribute to the board's support on this, because we will serve over 50% of our student population in summer learning this year, in one way or another, and really in enrichment learning, not in remediating learning. So, trying to continue to bridge that gap in a way that students and families don't feel is punitive, honestly, so they can engage in a very positive way. Congratulations to Ms. Retro's here, but the middle school, for those of you who follow such things, was second in the state in STEM, in the Pennsylvania STEM competition. So congratulations to that team and her ability, led by Mr. Mockimer. They created a washer and dryer that was eco-friendly in the Connects model, and Mr. Flowers did send out a video. I believe it was Mr. Flowers that sent it out, connecting that, but Mrs. Rexer could answer any questions you have about that. But very, very impressive experience that our kids are competing on the state level in the field of science. Mr. Rexer, do you want to talk a little bit about where we are currently for assessment?
Sure. And by the way, one thing that you left out, which I'm very proud about, is the fact that the team that won is a team of 3 young ladies. And every year that they have competed, they have won the county championship and have moved on to the state, and this year they were second in the state. So that has my heart, so I did want to make sure that I mentioned that. So I was fortunate enough, because I am working on toward my superintendent's letter of eligibility, to have the opportunity to work with teachers in all grade levels, K to 12, on common assessments. And so I'm just going to do a little presentation because we're about wrapping that up, and I would like to share with you the work that we've done. So first, if you're not familiar with common assessments, I did break it down a little bit. An assessment is the act of determining the extent to which the desired results are on the way to being achieved and to what extent they have been achieved. And common would be that basically in this model is that no matter who the teacher is, that assessment is going to be the same. It's attached to the course and the curriculum. So as you may have experienced in the past, whether with your own children or even yourself, unfortunately, sometimes when we take a course, even if it's the same course, depending on who teaches that course, we may get a completely different experience and come out learning many different things. And so, one student who had teacher X might learn these items, and a student who had teacher Y may come out and have some of that content, but may also know some other things that student doesn't. So this is a way to keep our courses really nicely aligned and make sure that teachers are still able to do those great things that they do in their classroom and the unique things that they do in their classroom, but know that in the end, every student who has taken that course has the same understanding at the end of that course. So the common assessment is going to be the same no matter who teaches the course, and they would be given at 3 to 4 different points in the year. So at the elementary level, we'd be giving the assessment at the end of the first, second, and third trimesters. And at the secondary level, there would be an assessment at the end of the first quarter, one that's at the middle of the course or at the end of the second semester or at the end of the first semester, and then a third quarter assessment, and then an end of course assessment. And as Preston did mention earlier, in a course like Algebra 1, where the Keystone is tied to that, they will actually be using that Keystone exam as that end of course assessment. So the benefit of this, as I said before, same course, different teacher, but a consistent content, knowledge, and understanding for all of our students. Very valuable data. One of the things that the teachers did with this was they did align every assessment that they created with the standards. So we can get wonderful data from these assessments because after the students take them, they can sit down and they can evaluate where the kids are, the areas they struggled, the areas they were strong. And then even better, it encourages collaboration among our teachers because now when they sit down as a data team, they can sit down and say, okay, our kids all did great on this standard, but maybe one teacher is seeing that her students struggled a little bit in one area, and another teacher might notice that her students did really well there. So that might encourage them to collaborate and say, you know, what did you do to get there? How did you teach that? And, or, you know, what did your formative assessments, the little things that you did along the way, what did those look like? And they can collaborate and hopefully then build, teach that other teacher some things that she can do in her classroom to strengthen what her students are getting. It's just a better foundation for our students by knowing that in the end, that this is what that assessment's going to be, this is what these students need to understand in the end and demonstrate that understanding. So then the teacher knows, okay, so everything that I do has to lead up to that assessment. So these will be in our core courses. These are the assessments that we developed this year for grades K to 12. And we're going to implement them in the 21-22 school year for the first time. I actually have my 7th grade math teachers using their end of course assessment this year. They're going to pilot it. They were looking for something to use at the end of the year, and they really like the assessment that was developed, so they're going to use it this year. They are going to be attached to the curriculum maps, so they have easy accessibility for our teachers because the curriculum maps are very accessible through our website where our teachers can access those. They are not going to be publicly available, which is what I was trying to get away from saying, but they are going to be accessible, this portion of it, to our teachers so that all they need to do is go into that curriculum map that they're already accessing and click on that assessment, and then that will pull it up for them to use. And there are a wide variety of assessments. I have some teachers who developed a really extensive lab type assessment for students, some teachers who did a writing assessment, and then some who used a more traditional paper pencil test kind of assessment. So it depended on, you know, what they thought was going to work the best, but they also had to collaborate. So it wasn't like it was one teacher who said, you know, I'm just making this assessment and the other 8 of us who teach that same course have to be happy with it. They actually had to collaborate with the others along the way and talk with them and say, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm developing, are you okay with this, anything that you think we should add, anything that we should take out. So they really worked together on that. So in the end, when they come to using these assessments next year, everybody is on board with that because obviously we want this data in the end, so we want to make sure that everybody is satisfied with these assessments and happy with them. And then the nice thing is too that, you know, if we come across things along the way, we can always be adjusting along the way. So the teachers did a really nice job with these. They, as I said, K to 5 did trimester assessments, and then our 6 to 12, we have an assessment at the end of every quarter. So I'm really excited to put these to use. I think that this is going to be a start of really good conversations with our teachers, and a move to the courses being much more alike in what the students are getting and what they are coming out of the courses with, which I know sometimes was a concern, making sure that everybody was getting the same experience no matter which teacher they had. So this is a great way to make sure that that happens. Anyone have any questions for me?
Approximately how long do these assessments take?
Well, the assessment, it depends on what the assessment is. So one of the things that the teachers did were they decided on what type of assessment they wanted to use first. So they're not necessarily doing it like a traditional final or traditional midterm. Like I said, actually some of our science teachers created a lab that encompassed a lot of what they did over that quarter. So that might be something that they do over the span of several days. However, another teacher may have made a more traditional paper pencil test, which could be, a half an hour. So they vary depending on what they are. I know I have some teachers who did projects for their students. My 6th grade science teacher did more of almost like a science fair kind of thing as her end of course assessment. So that's something that she's going to facilitate and work with them on. So it's not the traditional come up with something and bring your board and show it to us in the end. But instead she has specific topics that they can choose from, which were things that they worked on all year. And then she's going to work with them step by step on that process. So it really depends on what mode of assessment they decided to use, whether it's something that takes place over potentially several days or whether it's something that can be completed in a class period.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Hartford. So just, as Scott did in wrapping up the year, it's been a pretty interesting year, and we've had some great opportunities, and we never, paused after we came back in September. We kind of paused back in March and kind of regathered ourselves. But when you look at the MTSS model, where we want to be in Tier 1, which is a lot of what we do here and a lot of conversations we have in this particular meeting, we now, at the foundation, we need to have a consistent and pervasive practice. So we look at curriculum, we have the maps, you guys can see those, we all see those. And so we have a consistent curriculum. Instructionally, we have the instructional coaches and that instructional coaching model. So we're looking at curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Those are the only 3 pieces to this particular work. Now that we have a consistent instructional model in play and supported, the next place was to go to work on the assessments. And Mrs. Rector was interested in taking on that challenge and stepping forward to lead that, which was excellent. And we now have a common assessment. And the value, just to add a little color to it, is that at the end of each, we're not waiting for a half year or a whole year to go by to see how far off kids may be. We know at the end of each quarter or trimester, the diagnostic element that we have to go back and recalibrate, provide support, which puts us into the Tier 2 space of the MTSS model. To give the kids, support within 9 weeks from the beginning of the school year. Every 9 weeks, we're making those calibrations to help support students and teachers and keep them on pace, against what we know the assessment, which is aligned, of course, to the state standards. So that is the generic overview of the model, and you can see how the things are starting to dovetail and come together in those spaces. So, questions? Yeah.
I have 2 questions. Are those assessments exclusive? They're not permitted to give, the teachers don't give any other assessments, or they're just required to give that assessment?
So they just give that assessment at the end of each quarter, at the end of the
Okay, but there could be other assessments throughout the...
They're giving other assessments, yes.
Okay, and then the second question is, who's gathering that data, and what are you doing with it? When are you meeting?
So each school has a data team, so they get together and they actually discuss that data. So right now, and just speaking for the middle school, we have data from the CDTs that the students take. So they get together as like the 7th grade English teachers or the 7th grade math teachers and so on, and they actually discuss that data and where they are and where where they can move forward and how they can help each other. So this is something that, as Mr. McKnight said, we'll actually give a little bit more frequently than that, because we give that 3 times a year, and this will be some data that we will collect 4 times. And I personally think that this will be really valuable data, because it's really based, I mean, they took a look at the curriculum as it stands, those curriculum maps that they developed, and said, what are those important things that our students need to come away with understanding, and that's what that assessment is based upon. So they really can take a look and hone in on what they should have learned and come away with, and then, did they do that? So they'll be doing that periodically when the students take those assessments and taking a look at that.
Okay, and then there's certain criteria which has them fall within a specific tier, and then when are those children going to be targeted? The ones who didn't meet the criteria, or who?
So we have each building has a different, what I like to call laser time, but I do time.
Okay, that's when that would be.
Right. And so that's when that support occurs.
Okay. All right,
There's some call it flash laser time.
got it.
But laser time's the best thing.
That's what will be called next year in the middle school, later
There you
learning.
go.
One of the things that I think it's important for us all to collectively keep our eye on is that to help continue to, how do we honor teachers' art but still apply the science, right? We need to have that element going, but we also need to have at the core of what we do that, I always think of it this way, if you have 2 twin children, and one has teacher A and the other has teacher B, that experience should not be very different. It should be relatively similar. And there will be, obviously, the art of each teacher has their own personality and style, and we want that to happen, because that's about relationships and how they engage students. But the science piece is, are we delivering on that content, and the way to know if that's occurring consistently, based on these assessments. And that really is a big part. And then, you guys, I think, understand by this point, through our conversation, the tier 2 and tier 3 elements that we talk about. So questions around kind of the global sense of where we stand as of May 21. It's been a lot of fun work for a couple of years. People have done a lot of lifting. Teachers, building principals, administrators, and I think we're collectively in a very good foundational space. And I think we're at the beginning of the opportunity for some special things to really take off. I think there are special things that happen, but I think collectively as a system, we're ready to kind of have that integrated take off. So kudos to the people who did the work. Kudos to you guys for supporting the work, and just really appreciate you. So that's what I have for my agenda this evening. Any questions on the roundtable?
All right. I say that we will conclude our meeting then at 6:33 p.m.